All right, back at it with another internal episode. We were just talking before, but I realized the camera angle was off, so I had to fix that. Mm-hmm. So what were we talking about? We were talking about the fact that we don't really get to like see each other throughout the day, or like we live together, but we don't see each other often.
We're just on different schedules, but we see each other, but not for very long periods of time during the day.
Yeah.
And if I'm at work, then forget it. I'm gone for over 12 hours a day.
Yeah, that's true. Because she'll wake up, she goes to work, and then she goes to the gym after work.
Mm-hmm. I'm not working this week, but I was. What did I do today? Well, you went somewhere this morning.
I dropped off Kaden.
And then
I went to the gym.
And then I went to the gym when you got home. And then when I got home, you worked out in the garage. And then you went to work. And then I went to work. Not hospital work, but my aesthetics work.
Yeah, I feel like our works are both picking up quite a bit right now. Like our jobs.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Yeah, it's good.
It's very good.
And it's bad.
Why?
I don't know. Like, I don't really like want to be training people all the time.
Oh.
I want to focus on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
One day, someday.
Yeah.
One of my YouTube channels got up to 800 subscribers today.
What was it at the last time you checked?
It was at like 7. Well, it's been teeterings from last week to this week. It was at like 778 last week.
Oh, wow.
So I somehow gained 12 subscribers. 13, because I'm at 801 now. I've gained 13 subscribers in a week, which is dope. If you guys don't know, I have another YouTube channel where I talk about my chronic illness. That might be interesting to talk about, actually.
Yeah.
I have a chronic illness called POTS syndrome. So what that is do you want to take the lead on that since you're the medical person?
It's basically like an autonomic dysfunction. So we have an autonomic nervous system that kind of regulates like heart rate, blood pressure, stuff like that. It is POTS is a autonomic dysfunction condition.
What?
I don't want to say disease.
POTS is a subcategory of dysautonomia.
Yes.
Which dysautonomia is a dysfunction of your autonomic nervous system, which controls things such as blood pressure, heart rate, breathing, orthostatic numbers such as, well, I just said.
So orthostatic is, having an orthostatic blood pressure means you're going from certain positions, so either laying or sitting, to standing, and your blood pressure drops by a certain amount, or your heart rate increases by a certain amount.
It's categorized by 30 beats per minute up, and then 30 points of your systolic blood pressure down. And that's how you get the diagnosis officially. Mm-hmm. I think those are the right numbers. So anyway, I have that. And I've had it for years.
Yeah, and well, POTS is one of the conditions. There's many, many conditions that cause orthostatic blood pressure. It can be volume related, kidney disease and dialysis. I see a lot of people with valvular disease. I see it in Parkinson's. Very, very, very common to have orthostatic.
I mean, it could be something as simple as like electrolyte imbalance or water imbalance.
Yep.
Hydration status.
Being benign, or it can be POTS.
Yeah. So, man, this might actually be really good to get into, actually. I guess POTS is one of the reasons. Me having a chronic illness, POTS is one of the reasons that I am so not empathetic to people with excuses. Because me having POTS, I'll tell the story. Should I tell the story?
You should tell a story.
Okay. So I went through a series of time when I was like 24, I think it was, where I was just having these really weird symptoms. Like I would get short of breath randomly, and it was always chalked up to be anxiety, because I'd like go to the ER or whatever. I'd be like, I'm short of breath. Something's wrong. Like my heart is palpitating, the stuff. And doctors would just chalk it. Like POTS has only come to the surface, and dysautonomia has really like come out as of recently because of COVID, actually. Like, I have talked to so many different medical doctors that had no idea what POTS was when I told them that that was a condition that I had at the time. So anyway, the way that I get diagnosed is I had tons of bouts of like, I can't breathe, something's wrong with me. Like, and it like, I got anxious because I was having these symptoms, of course, right? Like, you feel like you're dying. And so I went through this really depressive period of time where it was like, I had
Whoops.
Nice. I had this really depressive period of time where like exercise was taken away from me because I couldn't exercise anymore. I just like, I didn't have it in me. I didn't have the energy. I always felt like I couldn't breathe when I was exercising. Like, so many things were going wrong. Eventually, one time that I go to the emergency room, this one doctor, I was super lucky to get him. He says to me, something really strange just happened when you went from sitting to standing with your blood pressure. You should get that checked out. I was like, perfect. Thank you. He's the first person that's ever said anything. Who should I get that checked out by? He goes, a neurologist. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to go to a neurologist. But I remember like crying that night because somebody finally was like, you're not crazy. Something is going on. Mm-hmm. Something really is wrong with you. And I guess that this would be not the beginning of where I like started understanding that I've had like autoimmune issues my whole life, or like, you know, I've had some sort of like weird health stuff. And the reason I kind of became like natural oriented and like kind of a hippie about things had been because I've gone through so much in life via depression, anxiety, all this stuff. But this was the tipping point where I was like, okay, I haven't been crazy. Like, I haven't just had anxiety for no reason. Mm-hmm. So then I go to a neurologist, but I'd already done my WebMDing by then, right? As all POTS people do, because everybody thinks that they're dying, which, by the way, it's not a fatal disease. It feels fatal when you're going through it, or a fatal illness, right? It'd be illness, not disease.
Yes.
What's the difference?
I don't know. We'd have to like...
Yeah, who cares?
Dictionary.
That'll be a whole podcast for a different time. Anyway, so I had done some WebMDing stuff and I found POTS. POTS was the thing that I landed on for all the things that I was feeling. And then, so I get to the neurologist. She's like, yeah, it sounds like POTS. And at that time I was like, oh my gosh, I have POTS syndrome. I'm like freaking out. I'm thinking I'm going to die. Mm-hmm. And so whatever, then she refers me to an electrocardiologist. And I go to the electrocardiologist. And the standard of like care, or the way that you would get diagnosed for POTS typically would be you do the tilt table test, or you do like the heat box, whatever, you know. And so the tilt table test is they put you on this table, they strap you in, and they lay you down, and then they bring you upright like kind of fast. And if you pass out, that's how you get POTS. So we should have mentioned that. The effect of your blood pressure dropping really low would be for a lot of people that they pass out.
Yes.
And that's how you would like really know that you're down. But the doctor, luckily that I saw, saved me another trip and money. And he was like, hey, if you have POTS, just live like you have POTS.
Yeah, because there's really not a lot, like, there's some medications for it, but
they use like, what are those called? The
metoprolol?
No, what are the things that I don't like? Every medication I don't like. But what are the things that I really don't like? Blood pressure medications. What are those called? Statins. No, statins is cholesterol. Yes. Whatever. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Beta blockers, metoprolol.
A lot of people use beta blockers and stuff like that, and I'm just not into that. I wasn't gonna do any of that. And he like asked me if I wanted to get prescribed something so that I wouldn't feel my palpitations as much. Mm-hmm. But like, not that they would go away, just that I wouldn't be as aware of them. And I'm like, well, if they're not dangerous, I don't care if I feel them. And even sometimes now I'll be like, oh, that was weird. I felt that. But anyway, herein kind of brought me down this really big health journey that I've been on forever. And so I realized a lot of the research that I was doing, you can't really call it research, right? But a lot of the research I was doing online, I was seeing a lot of like, not a lot, there was only a few studies on people with POTS. But I was seeing stuff about like recumbent biking and zone 2 work for people with POTS and stuff like that. And that sodium is a huge component to it. And to me, this kind of like made me go down the rabbit hole of sodium too, and why I think that sodium is like one of the most important nutrients that no one is getting or paying attention to. And we could talk about that at length, but I don't really feel like doing that. So anyway, but the recommended dose for people with POTS is anywhere between 5,000 milligrams to 10,000 milligrams a day. And they weren't doing like elements and, stuff like that, like salt tabs, swallowing a salt tab. Imagine how bad that would be.
Yeah.
That'd be terrible. So anyway, I figured that out, and then I figure out the zone 2 thing. I'm like, all right, well, I need to get back in the gym. It's something that I love. I took a period of like 6 to 7 months off. It crushed me because if you know anything about me, my physicality is something that I like am just so passionate about. And like, I mean, you've seen me like cry because I couldn't compete, it's something that's like incredibly important to me, and being healthy is incredibly important to me, not just for the sake of like expressing my physicality, but because we have kids and all this stuff. And I had a kid at that point too. So I was crushed, but as always, I've never really looked at myself as a victim to my circumstance. So I took it upon myself to like email an old coach that I had, like a bodybuilding coach. He's a PhD at Yale. And I was like, hey, this is what's going on with me. I need somebody that can help me devise a plan that's going to be progressive but slow. And so he did my bodybuilding work. And then I, with all the like the reading and knowledge that I had, accumulated to that point, put together like an aerobic protocol for myself to be able to progress through months and years and stuff. And the real turning point for me was there was one workout where I was walking on a treadmill at Anytime Fitness in Waukesha. And I'm on this treadmill, and I had gotten off and ran out the door 7 times because I was having an anxiety attack about the fact that I could not breathe. And I was on an incline, and I needed to finish this workout. And I thought that I was just giving up. And I finally told myself, literally, and I meant this, you're either going to finish this workout or you're going to die trying.
And what were you walking or running?
Just walking, like on an incline.
Yeah. And
so I decided to risk dying to try. And I finished the workout. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that this is like really, this won't really compute with people about how like intense all this really was. But like, imagine having something that you love the most out of like anything, because it's like the one thing. We could go into my whole past and all the trauma I've been through and all this stuff, but it was one of the things I felt I could control the most was like my fitness and like my physicality, all these things, right? And I got it taken away from me, the thing that I cared about the most. And I had it taken away for 6 to 7 months. So it was life or death to me to get it back. And I chose death if it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's one of the reasons why I just don't have any sympathy for people who are in changeable circumstances and they do nothing about it. You see that so often now. Mm-hmm. People just like, I don't know, they're like broke or whatever. We'll use that. I have used money for every analogy, but people will be broke and complain about it and cry about it. And they'll sit and watch Netflix or play video games. I'm like, what are you complaining for? Mm-hmm. Like, you have all the power in the world to go make more money, but you'd rather spend the time watching Netflix? Are you stupid? Mm-hmm. And so, but it's because I went through like a really hard period of time. Well, I mean, my childhood too, right? When I went through a really hard period of time in life, and I chose not to take the easy route out. I chose not to be bedridden. I've helped people with POTS since then because of my YouTube channel that hit 800 subscribers. Mm-hmm. I've helped people since then literally go from bedridden and housebound to not bedridden and being out in the world.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this about me, by the way. A lot of my friends don't even know that I coach people with POTS and do all this stuff.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really knows that.
No, no one does. No one, but like, it's not something that like I would like to boast or gloat about, like changing people's lives. Like, I love the fact that I get to do it, but it's like, it doesn't make me a better human. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, it makes me a better person because I get to see that I'm affecting people and changing lives, but it doesn't make me any better than I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I don't know what you're trying to say either.
I don't know. I just don't need to gloat about it. But anyway, yeah, that's my pot story.
What a great story.
Yeah, it is.
It's a fairy tale ending.
Fairy tale ending.
And do your pot symptoms still bother you today?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing when people like make the excuses of why they can't exercise because of ailments or whatever. I'm like, dude, I literally have a chronic illness. Not that I would ever tell them, and I don't tell anybody, but I have a chronic illness that like actually does prevent me from reaching certain levels of fitness and things. And I just don't believe it, and I don't buy into it, and I just keep doing it. You know, like I was on the chase to become a CrossFit Games athlete for like 2 years with this chronic illness. And so like, regardless of whether I would actually, it would be realistic or not for me to become a CrossFit Games athlete. The fact I feel like of all the work that I put in and all the training hours and stuff is just such a win because of where my health is and like the things that I have to deal with, you know? So
what types of things do you do on a daily basis to deal with it?
that's a good question. Heather Fuad, MD, the PA.
Yeah, PA.
Yeah, I think that like the thing that I focus on the most with that is hydration and sodium. Like I take that super seriously. And then I use some supplements that I believe work, you know, to help me with POTS, but I can't like say that for sure. So this is not medical advice, but I am of the thought that supplements are not to be supplemental anymore. I think that our food is super depleted, and some of us have a lot of like genetic predispositions for like, I guess dysfunctions in our body.
Yeah.
If we don't get certain nutrients, like some people are more prone to it than others. So I supplement. I think that supplementing with zinc and vitamin C and, you know, all your normal stuff, B complexes like B6, B12 in the certain forms that you need, methylcobalamin and like P5P, so phosphatidyl 5, whatever, forget what it is. Anyway, I think that that's really important for a certain group of people. And keeping up with your fitness is just super important. That's one thing that like a lot of people don't want to hear is that they have to regularly work out.
Yeah. Because what happens if you don't?
You get deconditioned. And deconditioning in POTS means like it is the same as fitness decondition, but it's like way worse. Like if I take 5 days off from the gym, I will feel the 5 days off from the gym. Everyone will feel it, but like I'll feel it. And like a good thing I have like a big aerobic base already. Like it doesn't just go away, but it takes me a few days to kind of get my wheels turning again. Yeah. And then a couple other things that I do is like sauna, because people with POTS have like a rough time with temperature and like regulating temperature. So like being in the super hot, a lot of POTS people have to stay inside for most of summer. But I'm of the school of thought that you train for everything. So if you want to be able to tolerate heat, you got to tolerate heat. You got to train for heat. So, yeah.
I have another question.
What?
Well, I know that we haven't been drinking for 2 years now, but did you have any worse issues, or like did alcohol make POTS worse?
See, I never used to think that. I didn't think that it made my chronic illness worse, but I think my hangovers were way more intense than other people's.
I mean, I think.
Why do you feel like they did? Like it did?
I don't know. We didn't drink very much together, so I'm not sure.
True.
But
We've only drank like twice together ever.
it's more than that. But
4 times.
Alcohol is going to make you feel like you have POTS without having POTS. So
Yeah, it's true. That is true.
It causes heart racing, dehydration, which could cause low blood pressure, anxiety, could cause some shortness of breath. It could cause, So, I mean, that's why I wonder if alcohol heightened POTS symptoms, or if it was just chalked up like, oh, I'm hungover, you know?
Yeah, I don't think that I noticed any like, crazy crazy progression of symptoms or anything like that due to alcohol. But yeah, that's my chronic illness story.
What a story.
Yeah, it's such a story. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just like even Colton Mertens, he has an autoimmune disease, right?
Yeah, he does.
And he's just somebody that doesn't let that be an excuse for where he's at or for where he's going to go. And I just think that that's so important, right? Like there's people, I don't like to talk about my experience with like chronic illness and stuff like that because I'm just not that guy that's going to be like, hey, I'm going through this and I've been able to do all this. So your little problem, like deal with it, you know? But it does like put a piece of me, like it makes part of me just like really unempathetic towards people that are going through like nothing and they make excuses, at least in my eyes, what is nothing? Because I guess problems are subjective, right? Or the weight of problems can be subjective, but there are some things that are definitely objectively worse than others.
Yeah.
Like I was in and out of hospitals for I think 14 times in 1 year.
That's crazy.
Like 14 ER visits in 1 year.
Yeah, I can see how they definitely would think you were crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, could you imagine looking at my chart every single time? Like, and they're like, oh, he's nuts. But then this is a testament to how broken the system is, though. Because I went in 14 times, and on the 14th time, somebody finally said something. And then I got a diagnosis for this thing that turns out to be true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it's crazy. But yeah, but I went in and out of a hospital 14 times in a year. And I didn't use this chronic illness as an excuse for why I can't be fit or why I can't, somehow get back to health and play with my kid and be a good dad and do all the things that I do.
Yeah.
So there's people
but that's the difference is there's people who are going to take advantage of an excuse like that, and then there's people who aren't going to.
Yeah. Oh, and trust me, I have worked with the lot of them. The one thing that I think, like, I don't know if this podcast does anything. If you don't have POTS syndrome, if you ever talk to somebody with POTS syndrome, there's always something wrong with them. Like it's nuts how there's always something wrong, and it's always psychosomatic. It's like it's almost never a reality that something's wrong with them. I've had people tell me that they have certain injuries that they don't have even after they get imaging. They're like, I just don't get it. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, dude, you're just in a chronic state of belief that you are unhealthy. That's why you have all these symptoms that are popping up. If you would just believe that you could be healthy or that you are healthy, a lot of this stuff would just go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ever see that in the hospital?
I've only had a couple of POTS people who had already had it diagnosed.
No, like you ever see in the hospital, like people who are just sick because of like their belief rather than actually being sick.
Yes, I've had that's conversion disorder. I'm pretty sure. Conversion.
Oh, there's a word for it. Hold on, let me restart this camera.
It's specifically for a neurological condition, I think conversion is. But it's a psychiatric illness where you think that something is wrong with you, but you actually manifest like physical. Like there's like a condition where you manifest physical ailments, but it's controlled by like your brain, like it's psychological. Yeah. But I did have one. I did.
A bad one?
A conversion disorder. It was crazy. It was like my first job at Oconomowoc Memorial, and she was young, low 20s.
Oh, you told me about this girl.
Did I?
Yeah.
And she was like married. She was in the hospital for like 2 weeks or something, and she couldn't walk. She couldn't walk anymore. And she had everything worked up. Everything. She had every MRI, every imaging thing, every like EMG. She She had the whole entire thing worked up. She was in the hospital forever and she could not walk. And then the other part of it was she had like pain in her legs, which doesn't typically go with like a neurological condition where you can't walk or weakness or something like that. Like we worked her up for like Guillain-Barré, like everything. It was crazy. And her husband was whack and he was like demanding Dilaudid and stuff for her all the time. And it was crazy. But yeah, we had a couple of neurologists see her. And then eventually we had the psychiatrist come, and turns out she had been, I think she was like in foster care, adopted or something. She had been abused as a child. And she developed conversion disorder. It was crazy. That's the only case I've ever seen it in my life, like in my career. It was nuts.
How do you fix that? Is it a therapy thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Therapy. She ended up going to like a subacute rehab, which is like where old people go when they're weak.
Wow.
Yeah. Or like that you've had a stroke or whatever. Like that's where I like send people to go to get stronger before, if they can't go home and stuff. And she went to one. She was low 20s. I think she was like 21 or 20.
That's wild.
Yeah. It was crazy. I have not thought about her in a long time, but I'm like, man, I wish I knew like what happened if she like got her strength back and could walk, and like it was crazy. Like I thought for sure something for real was wrong with her.
Really? Mm-hmm. I bet you she was fine.
Yeah, I'm assuming she turned out fine, but yeah, she had developed it from a psychiatric disorder.
Isn't it nuts, the power of the mind?
Yes.
I think the power of the mind is like the most underrated thing that we do not pay attention to. So many people, I think, hold themselves back because of the story that they tell themselves in their head. Like I've said this a million times. We all have a story about ourselves that we tell ourselves. But like I truly believe so many people hold themselves back from the stories that they tell themselves. Like I think that the hippies have been right for so long about this, that you are what you think and you manifest what you believe.
Yeah.
And that may not be true in the sense that like if I like truly believe a stack of $1 million cash is going to be on this table, it's going to show up. That may not be true. But I do think that if you think that you are good at CrossFit and you truly believe it and you put in the work, first the belief motivates the work, right? The work that you need to do. So, like if you truly believe that for a long period of time and you are willing to put the hours into, like it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
It has to happen. Right. But I think that the belief in yourself is the thing that pushes you to those next levels in life.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that something that like athletes struggle with, or like picturing or whatever?
Yeah. Visualization.
Yeah. Visualization. Yeah. That's what I was trying to
Okay. So it's crazy because I read this book I read, I think like half the book called, How Bad Do You Want It? Or How Hard Do You Want It? Something like that. Max L. Haig from Training Think Tank.
L. Haig.
Recommended. Max L. Haig. I got more respect for him than that because I'm part of Training Think Tank.
Yeah. But, I think he does too. It's all joking.
Yeah, they're going to go. Joke. Yeah. No, Colton told us that he really likes Training Think Tank stuff. Yeah, he did. Anyway, I read a book called How Bad Do You Want It? And in this book, it talked about basically the belief system of athletes. And like also though, that the athletes that were honest about how something was going to feel instead of lying to themselves, it made them more prepared and in turn made them perform better because that they were honest about it. When I finally learned that, to do that myself, like I would put it into workouts, right? Like, for example, when I said this workout's really going to suck, but you're going to make it through, that's when I finally learned how to black out in a workout. That's finally what did it for me. That's what made me be able to do a bunch of stuff unbroken. I also attribute it to like the ability to work for long periods of time. I just like, this is going to suck, but it's going to pay off. I think that once you can learn that not everything is easy and you shouldn't pretend that things are going to be easy for you. Once you can be honest with yourself about like, this is going to suck, but the payoff is going to be really big.
Yeah.
Like you have a much higher chance of actually succeeding at whatever it is than you would if you just lied and was like, I'm going to be famous and have a lot of money and be successful, and this job is really going to be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you can just be honest and be like, no, this is a lot of this is probably going to suck for a little bit, but it's going to pay off. I think you have a much greater chance of success with whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. And but I don't think a lot of people think like that.
No, because
most people don't.
No, but I mean, most people either think that they're like, whatever the hand of cards they were dealt is what they're gonna have, not realizing that the dealer always shuffles the deck. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's one thing that people don't realize, and then the one thing that people think, and then the other thing that people think is that if they lie to themselves enough, like, things will change. Mm-hmm. But the hardest thing to do, something that I realized a couple years ago, like before I met you, one of the hardest things to do is to look yourself dead in the face in the mirror and tell yourself how much you suck and change it. Mm-hmm. That is the hardest thing by far I ever had to do, was tell myself, you're not living how you say you do. You're not working as hard as you think you are. And I'm a hard worker. I've always been a hard worker. Mm-hmm. But to be honest about the capacity that you have and the potential that you have, and that you're not living up to it, because we all want to believe that we are. Yeah. And we tell ourselves that. But if you can be honest with yourself about that, like, you'll have a much better time.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Reflections of the world's smartest man.
Yeah.
On the Counterculture podcast. No, I don't know. That's something that I struggled with for a long time. Like, growing up and stuff. Because I didn't have a lot of, like, I guess, validation from my parents. I just told you that I was really surprised and touched by my mom the other day.
You were?
My mom just told me that she was proud of me the other day for, like, almost no reason.
Yeah.
And I didn't get a lot of that growing up, so I, like, had to be my own biggest cheerleader when I was younger, and, like, lie to myself kind of about things and be like, you're amazing, like, you're doing great, when really I had, like, these little insecurities, like, you're ugly and, like, no one likes you. But I didn't really think that, because I know that I'm beautiful. But I had little things for sure that I would, like, lie to myself about. You know what I mean?
I just lied to myself during that entire training session today.
You did? About what?
I kept saying, like, you know you can do this. You can do this. You can do one more set.
That's not lying to yourself, though, right? Like, having belief in yourself is not lying to yourself. Telling yourself that you are capable.
I guess I wasn't lying to myself. I was cheering myself on.
Yeah. You should always think that you're capable of more. You should always believe that you're capable of doing things. However, being delusional about where you are currently at is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you should be delusional about what you can achieve?
Yeah. That's a really hard one, because I've kind of shifted my mindset on that.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, because there's certain things, right? Like, I know I'm not going to ever be Matt Frazier. I'm never, because there's objective truths to that. Like, I'm never going to have arms that are the size of a midget's arms to be able to do handstand push-ups, like, at this rate. You know what I mean? Like, my one handstand push-up is going to take the amount of time that his 3 are, basically, right? So, like, yeah, I think that you should be optimistically delusional in some senses, right? Like, you should, I can't be Matt Frazier. I can't be the world's fittest man. I just can't. There's no way. I started too late. Could I make it to the CrossFit Games? I think I could make it to the CrossFit Games. When? I don't know. That's the thing. I
don't know.
Like, age group, maybe then. But, like, can I be the world's fittest man? No.
Yeah.
There's no shot, But I do believe I can make it to the CrossFit Games. In the current state that my body is in and the condition that I've been, no. And I also don't think, I think part of me being realistic is that it's not even smart for me to try right now.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. But, like, in terms of, like, where you think maybe professionally that you could end up, right? Like, could you become the CEO of whatever company? Yeah, I think you should believe that.
Yeah.
I think you should believe that you can get there, because I think that you always shoot high, or your targets should be high, and maybe you land a little low. Mm-hmm. But would you have gotten to like that position if you weren't aiming for the CEO spot?
Yeah.
Right. So I think that, and then I think that way about a lot of things, right? You should always aim up here. Like, I don't know. Let's say I want to, the easiest way to put it is like, I want to be a 10 millionaire or something like that. Let's say that that's my goal. I want to have $10 million in the bank. Well, if that's my goal, I'm going to do whatever I can to get there. And if I end up with $8 million, like I still won. I have $8 million. I'm going to be stressed out about 2 million.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah. But you'll probably always want more.
I will always want more. That's with everything, though.
I think I struggle with that being like sort of delusional in my goals.
Like, you can't be delusional?
Yeah, like I struggle with like seeing those big goals.
Yeah. I think, yeah, you do. You like don't have the, well, it's not a bad thing. I don't think that you have the ability to like visualize things in the way that I do, but you're a very like concrete person.
Very concrete person.
Yeah. I live in outer space.
I know you do.
Yeah. I'm different. But to be fair though, they both play to our strengths.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you are where you're at because of how you think, and I'm also where I'm at because of how I think and how I've been able to like visualize weird things in my brain and be like, oh, this would be really cool if this, and then I like make it happen somehow, you know?
Yeah, I actually just had this conversation sort of along these lines with one of the physicians in my group, because him and his wife are trying to figure out what kind of school they're going to put their daughter in. She's a year younger than Izzy. And he's like, do I put her in a public school? Because like his wife was a public school teacher, or do I put her in like a Montessori type school? And he's like, I just don't know what kind of like learner she is. And then I think, what did he say? Something like, I think public schools are fine. I think it's fine. Like, whatever, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. And I'm like, yeah, well, we're saying that because I think he asked where Izzy was going, and I said, well, she's going to go to Pewaukee, and he was like, and so we are both kind of saying like, whatever, public school's fine. And then I said, Kaden goes to this kind of like half outdoorsy type school, and then I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said something along the lines of like, whatever she does, it'll be fine. But I'm like, well, yeah, we can say that public school is fine because we're school people. And he's like, yeah, you're right. We're school people. And then I like think about you, who's like not a school person at all. And so I just think it's like interesting. Like, you don't know what kind of learner you are, or what kind of like, or like how you think about things, or how you process things until like much later in life.
One thing that I think is a problem though is like, we don't listen to our kids when they're telling us things.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like, I have always known what I was into. Mm-hmm. I have always known that. And I understand like we can get into a really weird realms here, right? With like transgenderism and stuff like that. But I think that if you are a parent, how do I say this? Like, I've always known what my interests were. Yeah. Right. And it was very clear what my interests were too. And school was never something that I was interested in. I was always when I got older, I really liked academia, like really, really liked it. I wanted to be a scientist. I wanted to be a neuroscientist. And I think that like I retain information pretty well. Mm-hmm. And I think that I feel like I know a lot about a lot of things, type of thing, but like, I'm not an expert at anything. But like, the thing is that I think a lot of times our kids are telling us how they learn. Our kids are telling us what they're interested in. Yeah. And like, we're just not listening. Yeah. Like, again,
because society is telling us to put them in a public school.
Yeah. Society is telling you like,
or school
like
system.
think about how things were done like back in the day, right? Like people were placed in certain like categories of things,
Yeah.
right? Based on like what their gender was, like what they were good at, what they like expressed interest in and stuff like that. Like they were put in different trades and stuff. And like I think that that's probably a really good way for a lot of kids to learn too, is to like let them tell you, and like, are they a tactile learner? Are they more visual and stuff like that? And then maybe the way that they learn can lend themselves to what they're better suited for long term in life. You know, like I probably should be doing something in the arts, but that wasn't
Encouraged.
yeah, it wasn't encouraged for me. Like I'm a very like passionately musical person, very passionately artistic, and like I have a lot of emotions and stuff, you know what I mean? And like expressing them in different ways is really important to me. Like music can make me cry just listening to it, you know, stuff like that, where like you're very tactile, like you're hands on, you like to like read things and learn about it. And you know, is that tactile? That's tactile. Like tactile is when you're touching, and so maybe you're not that, but you're definitely like a learner, you know, like you like to read and you like to try the things.
I have two things that I think book smart people have, and that's a very, very good short-term memory. And my long-term memory is not that great, but
Yeah.
my short-term memory is very, very good. And I have a very high natural attention span. Like I sat and did 6 weeks worth of content posts for my business
Yeah.
just straight through. And I didn't notice like brain fatigue until like the last one, when I couldn't think of an idea, and I just forced myself to think of it. But I'm like, oh my God, I just spent 3 hours like straight doing nothing else, just making content.
I couldn't.
Like I have a very like I could have, like when I was in PA school, I'd study for like 3 hours straight. Like
Yeah.
I could do that. No problem.
See, and I don't know if that's like a discipline thing or if that's like
I don't know. I've always been like that.
right. That's what I was gonna say. I don't know if that's like because everyone's always like, you can discipline yourself into doing stuff like that. Okay, sure, maybe, but is it worth it?
Yeah.
You know, like yeah, I could have enough discipline to stare at a book for 3 hours and like study it, but is it actually going to register?
Yeah.
You know, like anybody can do that. And like one thing that like I go back and forth with my parents, like my mom, I say sometimes I really wish that I had parents that like forced me to learn how to study or taught me to learn how to study. But I don't know if I could ever even be the person to learn how to study. If I'm being real with you, like it's just not what I was interested in. And if I'm not interested in it, it's like you ever read a book and you read like 10 pages and you have no idea what the book said?
I mean,
Have you ever experienced that?
probably not.
Okay. Every book that I don't care about, I have that experience. Like anytime. But if I care about it, I retain it all. And like I could tell you exactly what that page says. Like that's how my brain works, you know? Yeah. And so I don't know, like I think it is like kind of a thing that you're born with, right? Like you can sit down, any book that you read, you can retain the information. You might not like retain it long term as I would a book that I'm truly interested in. But if we were both to write an essay about a book from tonight, tomorrow, you'd do a way better job.
Yeah. And that's what I mean is I think that's why, I think part of like those differences between us are why you're so imaginative and you're like able to visualize like being a millionaire and like, and I'm just like, well, the bank account says this,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
this is how much money we make.
But the thing that I think I think it really works for me, right? Because throughout the entirety of my life, like I've had some really weird experiences with this, right? But like anytime that I've truly visualized something for it to happen, it always happens. Mm-hmm. Always. You've been with me a long enough time to know that, yeah, when I really feel it, see it in my head and like, you know, whatever, like it's probably going to happen. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. We've had a couple of scenarios.
Yeah, it's probably, and I don't know how, be it the power of God and like him, like me being one of his favorites or whatever, something, that's obviously a joke, relax. But I don't know. I think there's something to that too.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely do. I think that, yeah.
I've been just trying to work on trying to think with the cup half full.
Yeah.
More often, because I do think that there is, and you taught me that, to be more positive about things and think more positively about things, and like,
Yeah,
it's going to be okay and it's going to work out.
Well, here's the two options. You either think things are going to be okay and then they go bad, right? But at least you had like a positive outlook the entire time, or like, wait, let's rephrase that. Either you think things are going to be okay and then they'll more than likely be okay because you think that way. Right. And you're going to put in the effort towards making things okay more than you would if you weren't like believing that. Or you think things are bad and you're less likely to put the energy towards making things okay because you're already in a doomsday state. So you're just going to do the bare minimum of what it takes to make things okay. And that's not going to be enough a lot of times to make things okay. If you have negative dollars in your bank account and you're like, I'm just going to continue working at McDonald's, but I'm going to keep skipping. I'm going to pick up 1 hour extra here, 1 hour extra there, 1 hour extra here. You're eventually going to get out of the negative, but it's going to take a lot longer. And if you are like, hey, I'm negative dollars in my bank account, what can I do to make this a positive again? I'm going to think positively about it. You know what? I like going to work. I like picking up more hours. I'm going to go do 5 more hours on Saturday. I'm going to do 5 more hours on Sunday because I like it. You're going to come out of that negative way sooner than you would the other way where you don't like work and you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, mindset masterclass coming out in 2025, August of. I think that's a good place to end.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree.
Let's go have a shower. I stink.
Don't tell people on the internet we didn't shower yet.
Why? I can smell every piece of me right now.
He does stink.
I smell bad.
Why do you smell so bad?
I haven't showered since yesterday morning. And I worked
Sure,
out
you
today.
showered yesterday.
I didn't.
No, I don't think you did.
Whoa. I haven't showered since 2 nights ago.
That's why.
That's gross. I haven't showered for 2 nights and I worked out today. Ew. Whatever.
Well, okay.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
Anyway, thanks so much for watching. If you did like it, please hit that like button, subscribe if you are new, and we will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out. Goodbye.
Good night.